like bringing your skills that will transfer well into tech is important. Like, as I said, my internship with Hershey, people were like, how do you compare chocolate with Dell computers? My answer is you're selling product.
Thank you, Ben, for your time today. Really appreciated.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Ben Schapira. I'm from New York originally. Pre-MBA. I went to UNC Chapel Hill actually for undergrad. Studied finance and economics. Worked at Wells Fargo for 4 years or so. First in like an operations role, back office, and then I was trading stocks for them. Really liked it, but I decided banking wasn't for me. I really wanted to try my hands in something more marketing heavy. So I decided going back for my MBA would make sense. Ended up back at UNC for my MBA, where I met you, unfortunately. Just kidding. And then, yeah, I studied marketing and I did the data analysis and tech concentration as well. My internship, I actually didn't end up in tech for my internship. I actually ended up at Hershey, where I did brand management, which when I was recruiting, I was looking tech mostly, but then CPG is a backup because brand management is similar to product management. And so I knew it would give me some good experience for the summer. So internship at Hershey was great, but I knew I still want to get into tech. So re-recruited, and yeah, I ended up at Dell. Kind of a crazy story, but yeah, I ended up getting an offer pretty late in the year from them. I don't regret waiting. Dell's a great place, great culture, and I've met a lot of great people here so far. So yeah, it's been really good.
So you said that you got a late offer from Dell. Can you maybe tell me a little bit about the process? Like, what was the application process look like? What did the interview process look like? Like, how many rounds of interview did you have? And like, what types of interviews was it? Can you maybe share a
Sure.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So for, I mean, I'm actually involved in the recruiting process for Dell, so I can even go through. I didn't intern with them, but if
Yeah.
you'd like, I can also go through the internship recruiting process because it's a little different. I don't know if that'd be helpful for your users, your viewers, but
Yeah.
for internship, it's like we have a company presentation. You want to try to network a bit, so we have a lot of one-on-ones with candidates, and then we have the company presentation, one-on-ones, and then they apply with cover letter and resume. Then we have one round of interviews for internships. And we're really looking for like Dell fit, and we can go into culture later on, but you want to make sure you're a good fit for the culture.
Sure.
The full-time recruiting is a little different. So it's earlier. Internship recruiting is going to be in like the interviews are in like January, February, when normal internship recruiting is. For full-time, it's like in the fall. So like right when you get back on campus for a second year. And so the first interview is on campus. They're looking for Dell fit as well. But then instead of just saying, hey, you're in Dell, they'll try to find, based on your resume, based on your interests, a hiring manager fit for you. The interviews, the first interview was just Dell fit, and then it was with specific managers that would actually be my boss. And most of the interviews are behavioral style, so star answers.
Sure.
But they're like for both interviews, there was like a case, quite a simple marketing case. Like the one that we did this past year with the interns for recruiting was like, tell me about favorite Dell product. And then the follow-up question was, so Michael Dell comes to you and says, I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. We need to raise revenue 20% on this product this year. What's your, how do you, what do you do? And we're looking for like a 4 Ps, 5 Cs type of answer. So that's the interview process in a whole. Dell is pretty responsive. Like I think this year and last year too, with the interns, we were able to, because it's only one interview, we interviewed them and then we told them same day, we called them and said, hey, you have an internship. So we were able to get back a really quick turnaround. So it was a pretty cool thing. And so I personally got to call people from my room and say, hey, I know we just talked like an hour ago, but guess what? You have a job for the summer.
Oh, wow.
So like get a lot of excitement on those calls. It's always nice to hear that. And then they get the paperwork a few days later. But once we tell them you have an internship, it's coming. We don't cancel on them or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So.
I mean, I was in that shoes as well, writing cover letters and submitting that application and all that. And one of the things that I was told was that, networking is really important at Dell. Just like knowing, just what you said, like just doing your homework, doing your due diligence before you actually go into that interview setting. Is that true? I mean, it sounds like it is true.
I think 100%. I think like, obviously, this year for UNC, like we had so many good candidates, like we had a pretty long wait list this year for
Uh-huh.
UNC specifically because we had just had so many people want to say yes to. But like I think networking in general, obviously there's certain companies that aren't as big on networking, but I think if two people are equal in the eyes of the recruiter, in the eyes of the interviewer, and one has done the reach out and one hasn't, most companies are going to go with the one that reached out and they know, or they're more, because I don't think it's more about
Sure.
like them just putting in the work and saying, oh, we're checking the boxes, because
Sure.
anyone could check the boxes. I think it's more of you only have one interview with this person, a 30, 45-minute
Sure.
interview. It's a comfort level of we're more familiar with what we're
Gotcha.
getting. We know who you are. Because it's hard to gauge someone in 40 minutes. So it's not just checking the boxes. Like, I
Gotcha.
don't think you should just network. And there were people that just network to network, and we called them out and we didn't accept them for interviews for that reason. Because they either said it in the networking session or it was very obvious. So it's not just about checking boxes. It's finding out, like, and the best interviewers were the ones who talked with us because they had an idea of like what job functions they were interested in, what those job functions actually meant. Because like so many people say, I just want to be a product manager. What does a product
Hmm.
manager mean? Because at Amazon, it's different than Dell, which is different than
Sure.
Google, which is different than Apple.
Hmm.
So I think it's important to know what you're saying, and like you can use flashy words all you want, but if you don't know what you're actually talking about, we'll figure that out pretty quickly in the interview process. So
Shifting gears a little bit. So you work as a product manager at Dell.
correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So I'm a product manager in the ops space, in the operations space. So it's kind of a weird scenario, and I'll get more into that in a second. And I'm on the software and peripherals team, S&P for short,
Hmm.
mostly on the peripheral side. So everything after the system is sold. So Dell
Hmm.
obviously sells a lot of laptops and computers, the monitors, the keyboards, docks, headsets, etc. So you can see in the background, I have two monitors right there. Those are some Dell monitors that I have for my home
Of
setup,
course.
of course. And I have a wireless Dell keyboard. I have a Logitech headset. We don't just sell Dell products. We also sell a lot of third party. My major focus is on actually the third party space. So we
Uh-huh.
sell every company you could think of. We sell Logitech, Jabra, Samsung, anything you could really think of, and we do it on the consumer side and also the server side. We also
Uh-huh.
recently sold TVs until a few months ago. We took them off our site, but you could sell. I have an LG TV I bought through Dell.com. My focus is on the third party business, and so
Hmm.
what I focus on as in the ops space is making sure that orders are running smoothly, that we have good relationship with our vendors, because we have a lot of vendors, like over 300 or 400 that we
Hmm.
work with, and I do a lot of projects on like efficiency and optimization. So a project I was just working on recently, it's still kind of ongoing, but we've made great strides already, was trying to improve the margin on third party, because
Uh-huh.
our sales teams, based on were giving away a lot of margin that we didn't need to, because we were pricing ourselves below everyone else. It was kind of just a system issue where the floors we had set up, the margin floors we had set up in our system, were really low, and salespeople are just going to sell that at whatever they can because they don't get comped on third party as much as they do Dell products. So they were just pricing it to whatever they could to win the deal. So by upping the floor, we were able to manufacture significant extra margin on a yearly basis.
Gotcha.
So that's just an example of a project. Another one would be, there were some new regulations for manufacturing products in China,
Hmm.
where they're trying to get rid of toxic or
Yep.
possibly toxic compounds. It's trying to improve their environmental
Uh-huh.
regulations. And so we had to reach out to every vendor that has plants in China to make sure that they were compliant, or we couldn't sell their products anymore. So I helped lead
Hmm.
that project. So we had to reach out to like 250, 300 vendors and make sure they were compliant. And we got that all done in the amount of time that we had. And
Hmm.
so a lot of projects like that. And then our team does a lot of other stuff, a lot of other things as well. We also help with the Dell branded displays and docks, which are our two biggest peripheral spaces. And so I help with some projects along that as well. But my major focus is third party.
Gotcha. So I would say that it's not really so when we think about product managers, we think about like, creating products, for example, or like delivering a product to life from scratch or something like. So
Yeah.
that's not really the case when you say, or in terms of what you are working on as a product management.
Sure. Yeah. I'm focusing on products that are already out in the market and making
Uh-huh.
sure that they're and like, so for example, that margin project, like similar to like your classic product manager, it's very cross functional to improve that margin floor to help improve the margin. I had to work with our
Hmm.
product line managers, which are like
Sure.
the regional which are the regional product managers. I had to work with pricing. I had to work with sales. I had to work with all the
Gotcha.
different teams to make that happen. So in that way, it's very similar to like your classic product manager role. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the
Okay.
product management at Dell is kind of split up. So I don't know if you've talked to anyone else at Dell, but there's the PG side, which is like creation of, or like before creation, like coming up with ideas of products
Uh-huh.
to launch to end of life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then there's the PLM. There's also another part of PG that focuses on launch to end of life. And then the PLMs are like the product line managers, as I mentioned earlier, are the regional owners of those products. And so the PLMs are like the middleman between sales and PG is kind of the middleman between engineering and PLM.
Gotcha.
So, and it moves all
Gotcha.
the way up that chain. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of split up. It's not like owning it from idea
Gotcha.
to end of life.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like idea to launch sustaining to end of life, kind of split up that way. It's not a perfect example, but like
Yeah, yeah. Make total
it's
sense.
that's the general idea at Dell.
Okay. And
Yeah.
stuff. Can you maybe tell me about, Dell's culture and a little bit more on the work-life balance as well? Because, with the pandemic and with everyone kind of work from home, I know there's a lot of people who's like struggling to, actually have a work-life balance when you are basically working, living in the same space.
Yeah, yeah. I like my bed's there, my desk is right there, my couch is what I'm on right now. So on the culture, I couldn't be happier with Dell's
Mm.
culture. Um, Really collaborative, really friendly. If we were still like usually when we're in the office, obviously it's harder to do remotely, but our teams do a quarterly like volunteering event, and so we usually go volunteer somewhere. I set up one when I was there for my first quarter. We did animal shelter, and then we
Mm.
all went out to lunch together. So really great culture, really good people. I could say like out of the hundreds of people I've met so far at Dell, I could probably count on less than one hand how many people I would prefer not to work with again. And so that's pretty impressive. Like I would say two or three out of hundreds. So that's a
Sure.
pretty good percentage right there. I like, yeah, I like the Dell's really big on like getting different experiences. So usually 18 to 24 months after into a role, you're pretty flexible to start moving on to different roles. I'm
Uh-huh.
starting to look at other roles right now. And so and like Dell's very big on networking. So like, and you can really talk to anyone. So even I was 5 or 6 months in, I wasn't looking for a role yet. I was setting up one-on-ones with someone. I have a great story where I had heard about someone who would be good to speak to, and he was a senior vice president level, which is very high
Oh, wow.
for Dell. And someone was like, maybe you might want to reach out to someone below him first, and then see if you can talk with him later. And it happened to be like a day, or like the same day or the next day, I was at a networking event for interns, I think, and I ran into him randomly. I didn't
Hmm.
know who he was. I didn't put the face and name, but when I heard his name, I was like, oh, I just heard about you earlier today. And
Yeah.
I was like, can I set up some time with you? And he said, oh yeah, sure. Just talk to my
Assistant.
executive assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to them like 3 weeks later, something like that, when his schedule had time. But like, and then he introduced me to like 10 other people that I could speak to, and
Oh, wow.
it became a revolving door of being able to just talk to people. And I've actually emailed him a few times since then, just like asking follow-up questions or
Sure.
say, hey, anyone else you suggest? And like, yeah, that's just, it's a very, like, every org has like seniority obviously, but it's very flat in the fact that you can talk with anyone.
Sure.
So that's on the culture. On the going remote, I think it was a challenge early on. I think like a lot of people, like everything became Zoom back to back from 8 to 5 every day. But it's, people have kind of gotten in a groove of like balancing out their time. So like people will schedule their lunch break so people know not to schedule meetings during that time. Sometimes like if you're going to have a night meeting, your boss is most managers are very understanding of like maybe take an hour off earlier in the day, so you don't have to worry about the
Sure.
night meeting. You can Dell's pretty good about work-life balance. I would say on average, I work 40 to 50 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
usually closer to 40. Now that I'm home, like a lot of times I'll take my lunch break at the gym and I'll just eat while I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just what I prefer to do. And it's easy. We use Microsoft Teams, and I have Teams and Outlook on my phone. So if there's a late night message, it's not that often, but if it's a late
Uh-huh.
night message or email that I need to get to, I can just quickly hop on my computer and answer it, or just answer
Uh-huh.
it from my phone.
Okay.
So, but like usually people respect like after 5 or 6 o'clock, that's your time.
Gotcha.
And most managers also, if you do have kids, which I personally don't, but if you have kids or other commitments, as long as you get your work done in a timely fashion, they don't. It's not like
Gotcha.
you need to be on when I'm on type situation. It's
Gotcha.
not.
Gotcha.
It's not like that. So
Gotcha.
it's a very relaxed culture in that way,
Gotcha.
which is something I prefer because I don't want someone breathing
Yeah.
down my back all the time. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Last question is advice for those who want to break into tech without any tech experience.
sure.
Yeah.
Advice for people who I think a lot of it's networking, a lot of it's talking to people. Um, I think bringing in your other skill, like bringing your skills that will transfer well into tech, is important. Like as I said, my internship with Hershey, people were like, how do you compare chocolate with Dell computers? And my answer is you're selling product. Yeah, one is you're buying it every day, and one is you're buying it once every few years. But in the end, you still need to think about how a consumer thinks, how and
Mm-hmm.
how the sales function works, how the entire creation product process works. Creating a chocolate bar is a similar process to creating a computer. It takes a few years. It's some testing. And then you create the product based on the testing and price. You have to price it right. There's a lot of
Sure.
similarities across that. So I think just taking those skills and being able to say how they relate is really
Mm-hmm.
important. And that's what I was able to do. Even some of my banking work I was able to translate because there was a lot of data analysis, and in the roles that I was looking at for Dell and for other tech companies, there was a lot of data analysis, and product managers need to be able to work with data, understand it, digest it, and make
Yeah.
it into solutions. So I think just being able to take that experience and convert it into computers in this case
Yeah. Yeah.
is important. So that would be what I would say. And then like I think just also like podcasts help, listening to stuff about tech. There's actually one of my favorite podcasts that's not that techish, but sometimes a decent amount have to do with tech is How I Built This. It's on NPR with Guy Raz.
I love that.
There's one with Michael Dell. Great
Yep.
listen if you want to,
Yeah.
but a lot of these CEOs of I listened to one of about Hinge a few days ago because it just came out. He had no tech background. A lot of people have no tech background at all, but if you're passionate about it, pick up articles, pick up books, learn about it. I just for fun recently I took a SQL course because I want to learn about how to do
Mm-hmm.
SQL because I working on my
Yeah.
data skills. So there's plenty of opportunities out there. That was on Coursera, which is you can
Sure.
take that class. So there's plenty of research. There's plenty of opportunity out there. You just have to ask the right questions, reach out to the right people, and keep working hard and bring your past experiences in. So
Awesome. No, that's a really good answer. Just basically transferable skills plus just be ready to learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. Ben, thank you so much for your time today. That was all for the interview. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. It's always great to speak to you, and go Heels.
Go Hills, man.
Yeah.